Hello and welcome to Doing Business in Rwanda. My name is Michael Mjisha. On this particular episode, we look at Rwanda, a country that hopes to make $800 million on the back of tourism. And of course, biggest to this conversation is conservation of the mountain gorilla. Now, we do know that most of these gorillas live in the Virunga vicinity, just right behind me. And today we are at the 13th Annual Kwita Izina Ceremony, where 23 baby gorillas were named. Now, we went ahead to speak to different stakeholders to get the business sense and also to understand how far these conservation strategies have pushed the country.
The conservation that's going on in Rwanda is unique in the world. Most of the world's species are declining, and here you have got the gorilla population. I think I saw the last gorilla being born, I think it was 600, number 6. I witnessed it myself. So I think what the world can learn is that there is a better way that you can turn, the conservation projects into a huge financial opportunity. You can bring the tourists here. You've got new one and only hotels opening up here. You've got people coming here. I think it's fantastic. And the game park is another opportunity to come here. So it's the future. Tourism is already the #1, right, driver of the economy in Rwanda. So bring it on. Bring more tourists. Tell the world, come to Rwanda. Right? Rwanda's a great country.
Conservation and environmental protection is at the heart of the Volkswagen Group. Not just in Rwanda, but in South Africa. We've been supporting the Wilderness Foundation for the past 20 years in the protection of rhino and other species. In Rwanda, if you follow the Kwita Izina last year, our Africa MD was one of the namers, and this is in line with our presence here. We are a gold sponsor this year, sponsoring an event that is key for Rwanda and for the region. This 13th edition is a testimony of the dedication and consistency of our governments when it comes to conservation and environmental protection. In Rwanda, the protection of the gorilla has not only been a plus for the environment, it also brought much in terms of tourism, in terms of foreign income, and it has also changed the life of the people living around Musanze and Kinigi and beyond.
This is a natural African reflex. So what Rwanda is doing, they are just bringing this old African reflex into life. And then we should greet Rwanda for this leadership as an example of African getting back to the roots. I'm happy that Rwanda is taking the lead on that under the leadership of President Kagame. This is something we all Africa, we need to follow.
Craig Jolley, along other conservationists, believe that conservation would have never been a success story in Rwanda if the country didn't focus on the combination of wildlife and the people.
When one began focusing on conservation in Rwanda, it was all about wildlife, but then it was realized that if in fact we were going to be successful in Rwanda, you had to really focus on a combination of wildlife and people. And it's one of the things that I think AWF has done very, very well. You've got the example of Sabinyo Silverback Lodge, the first, the only community-owned lodge in Rwanda. That basically has engaged about 7,500 families who live on the periphery of the park. Those families have benefited immensely over the course of the last 10 years while Sabinyo Silverback has been operating. Over the course of the last 10 years, they've netted in excess of $3.2 million. And so I think that linkage between people and wildlife is very, very strong here in Rwanda. As a result, you have a lot of people who've been converted to conservation. And that's important. If in fact we don't have an African voice, an African constituency for wildlife, conservation is going to fail. Rwanda has engaged people. I think that's very, very important. And the same kind of models have to be emulated elsewhere throughout Africa. Unless you engage local people, give them an opportunity to recognize that wildlife is one of their most important assets, you're likely not going to be successful.
For me, this is one of the best projects in the world today, where you see nature and the community benefiting from each other. It's something spectacular. It's something that the whole of Africa can learn from. My life, my journey in tourism started with creating a game reserve in the Eastern Cape of South Africa from degraded, drought-ravaged, abused land. I assembled 20,000 hectares of land which had been totally devastated from wildlife. It employed 16 people. In our peak we employed 360 people without the multiplier effect of travel, of food, of transport and everything else that goes with us. So I've seen how both business and communities can work, because we wouldn't have survived if we did not make a profit. So from all that, I've just recently done a deal with the biggest hotel group in the world, one of the biggest, called Accor, and we, in terms of that deal, decided that we're going to start a fund called a Community Conservation Fund Africa, because we believe that conservation and business will not exist without community involvement.
Tourism is a critical part for the Rwandan economy. I think it's one of the most critical parts. So I think people like us who are investing in Rwanda and creating new destinations, opening up the country to tourisms from all over the world. One of the great things about an internationally recognized brand like One and Only is that we have guests and consumers all over the world who will learn about Rwanda through our brand. And so we're introducing new people and new communities to Rwanda. You know, I've been speaking at length as I travel around Europe and the United States about the new developments that we have as a company. One and Only is growing in Rwanda with 2 resorts. Rwanda is the thing that everybody's interested in. So we believe that for people to really enjoy Rwanda and not just simply come for 1 or 2 nights in to see the gorillas, which of course is the most amazing thing that you can see, but there's more to Rwanda than just the gorillas, right? So we wanted to open up with our Nungwe Forest property, which is opening on October the 1st, this ability to go and see a different part in the forest and the rainforest. So I think it'll be a wonderful opportunity for us to have more than one center in Rwanda.
Conservation goes far beyond just the gorillas to elephants and other wild animals. Speaking to Michael Onyeka, the Vice President of Conservation International Africa Field Division, stressed the note that there is a need for an urgent paradigm shift, and this can't be done by one organization.
It's a lot of work with so many puzzles, missing puzzles, moving puzzles that we are all working to. And what I'm getting at is that it's not something that one sector alone can tackle. You need to address the issue of corruption, effective governance, effective enforcement on the ground, which NGOs don't have. We don't have an army, we don't have the police, we don't run the Kenya Wildlife Service or the Rwandan Wildlife Service. It's the government side that does that. So, but the government needs to create an enabling policy environment with strong enforcement, and then the NGOs can bring our creative thinking, innovation, and funding to support it. The private sector needs to play a role, because when you extract this ivory, it gets shipped. So who ships them? Either by air or by road or by sea. What is the role of logistics companies? So you see again, NGOs don't run logistic companies. So I wanted to highlight this, that everyone makes the mistake of thinking when there is an issue like this, one organization should have dealt with it, but it's something that requires a collective effort from the state, private sector, and organized civil society.
In May 2018, the government of Rwanda, through the Rwanda Development Board and the Rwanda Convention Bureau, signed a 3-year sleeve partnership deal with Arsenal that's expected to add at least 300 million worth of new investments to the country and pushing close to the 800 million target in tourism revenue by 2024. At the Kwita Izina, we spoke to both the Managing Director of Arsenal F.C. and CEO of Rwanda Development Board for a look into the deal.
For us, whenever we're looking for partners that we believe can help grow our profile, but also that we believe we can help them grow their profile. And the really exciting thing about the partnership for us was feeling like we could really help Rwanda grow one of their biggest exports and really drive tourism numbers to this country. And we've already seen in the promotions and activations that we've done with Rwanda so far, the extraordinary reach that we can provide. So for example, a month or so ago, we surprised our Arsenal First team by having some Rwandan dancers and drummers come into the training ground and surprising the players after training. And in just 4 days, we had 2.1 million people who'd seen that piece of content. So it was a really nice start to the partnership, showing how we can really drive the name of Rwanda and celebrate everything that Rwanda has to offer through tourism through this partnership. Today we have Alex Scott, who's here to name one of the gorillas. Over 100 caps for England, over 100 caps for Arsenal, played in the Olympics. We've got Lauren here as well to name a gorilla, part of the Invincible team, 2 league titles. So we've got Arsenal legends coming out here to help promote Rwanda. We'll have Arsenal first team players out here. We'll have Arsenal coaches coming here to coach boys, girls, men, women, coaches as well. We'll also have some of the best Rwandan players coming back to London to train at our facilities. So it's a really multifaceted partnership. It's branding, it's promotion with players, it's bringing Arsenal here, it's bringing Rwandans back to London as well.
2024, $800 million is what we want to achieve in tourism. And that means doubling from $438 million that we achieved in 2017. Now, that requires a lot of work and a lot of efforts to do that. But we're going to focus on doing mainly 3 things. Number one, we're going to make sure that there's more and better infrastructure in Rwanda so that when tourists come, they have good hotels, they have good airlines flying into Rwanda, they have high-speed internet, they have all the infrastructure that connects them around the country. Already we do well in those areas. We have lots of 5-star hotels, but there's a lot that we can still do, especially outside Kigali. So we're going to be focusing on that a lot. Number 2, we're going to market Rwanda even more to the world. We just signed a deal between Rwanda and Arsenal where we had a lot of attention and a lot of recognition of our brand in the tourism world. Because of that, we've seen very increased interest in our country. And so marketing Rwanda, not just with Arsenal, but we're marketing Rwanda in the US. We did a documentary called Rwanda the Royal Tour in the US. We're signing a deal with Alibaba to have our tourism products available on the Chinese e-commerce. All these are going to be the different ways that Rwanda is going to be known, and we're marketing Rwanda to the rest of the world. The third part of our strategy is service delivery, and that is everything to do with service delivery, from ensuring this peace and security, which we already have in the country, but also really when our guests go to the hotels, really ensuring that their services improve, they get better all the time, and the quality is really of very, very, very good standards. And other than that, we're also doing conservation even more because our tourism is very much anchored on conservation. So making sure that we don't lose focus of is very important in our strategy. And we believe by doing all these 3 things, we will be able to achieve the target that we want. We are just getting on that now.
And that's where we leave it on this episode of Doing Business in Rwanda. We did take a close look at $438 million that was generated as revenue in 2017 only on the back of tourism, and also a 7% indirect contribution to the national GDP. Now, we also looked at conservation and how this is actually helping the local households live a better life, but also enlarging the habitat for the gorillas and also other animals in Rwanda. Allow us to leave it right here for this episode of Doing Business in Rwanda. Now, if you have any feedback, be sure to send us an email to dbir@abn360.com or tweet us at DBI Rwanda. My name is Michael Mjisha, and from the entire team, thank you very much for joining us.